Hello and welcome to Ewell Acres. We're going to be trying something a little bit new. Today, we are going to be talking about everything strawberries. It is that time of year, springtime. Whether you are up in the high mountains like I am, and it's a little bit colder, and your season gets a little bit earlier, where your season is just barely starting, everything is just barely starting to wake up, or you live in the deep south near the equator, and things have been going for a while and you are just going. You don't know what you got going on. So today we are going to be talking about strawberries. And we're going to be trying a live stream and seeing how it goes. If this is something that you like to do that you're enjoying, let us know in the comments and maybe we can do a little bit more of these. So it's going to be kind of a trial and error for the first official Ewell Acres live stream. So I would like to go ahead and thank everyone who joins us. Thank you very much for coming in and being a part of this as we try and grow this channel and see how things go. And so if you have any questions during this live stream, we have an agenda. We're going to be talking about everything strawberries. But if you've got questions, let us know. I would love to answer them. We can take a little bit of a side quest and talk about it. It's not going to be just everything strawberries. If you just have questions in general about gardening, let us know and I'll be more than happy to answer them. And sometimes the answer may be yes, sometimes the answer may be no. It could be I don't know, or I'll do my best to answer those questions. So if you've got a question, let me know and I'm more than glad to help you out. So, who am I? Well, I am the owner of Ewell Acres. I have been involved in the agriculture industry for the better part of the last 20 to 25 years. Starting out as a very young, small boy, I was enjoying growing up in my grandmother's garden, whether it was dealing with strawberries, raspberries, potatoes, root crops, even dealing with stone fruits, cherries, peaches, apples. I remember growing up in the orchards, helping them to take care of their fruit on more of a homestead level. As I got a little bit older, I started growing in my own parents' garden, helping to start at farmers markets, going off to college, getting degrees in agriculture and helping to farm other people's farms, working for large multi-corporate national corporations, working with plant genetics. Whether it's good or bad, if you look at it, Monsanto, DuPont, Pioneer, I've worked for some of those large companies helping for commercial ag, helping to develop with my degrees in plant genetics and biotechnology, working with the USDA, working with public education on a university level. So I've literally hit all three segments, whether it was USDA, public sector, working for universities, having multiple research papers published underneath my name, learning under some very brilliant men, and also working in the private sector. I've had the opportunity to learn from very great individuals. Also, doing it on large scale agriculture, driving tractor, driving semi truck, working with those large ag up to 130,000 acres, dealing with commercial crops, wheat, alfalfa, corn, helping to produce them on an agricultural level so that they are transported throughout the entire world. Also, on my own farm, my own homestead, growing those out as I continue to work in agriculture. It's something that I have a passion for and love. And so that's a little bit short history of who I am and why maybe it may be worthwhile to learn from me. But in all honesty, we don't have all the answers. There are still things that we are starting to learn and we can learn from each other. That's why we have the motto of Ewell Acres, rooted in nature, where we can continue to learn and grow from each other. I've learned everything that I have from great inspired men who've learned it from them, who've learned it from them, going back to Gregory Mandel, the original genetics dealing with the monks in the church. But you know what? Even now in modern day, there's things that we're still constantly learning. I don't have all the answers, so hopefully we can learn from each other. So the main focus tonight, looking at polls. So let's go ahead and start looking at our poll this evening. And if you've got any questions, let me know. So starting with the poll, we have, what is your biggest struggles with strawberries right now? What is it that you're struggling with? Are you struggling with water? Do they never seem to work well? Are they drowning and they just never seem to work well? Are they dying of thirst and they're just getting obliterated? Or is it pests? Are those little buggy boys coming by and absolutely destroying your strawberries? Are birds coming down and eating them? How is it that you protect them? What are you struggling with? One of my favorite things that I love about gardening is there is a TV show called Winnie the Pooh, The 100 Acre Woods, The Wonderful Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, in particular the 1990 to 1991 version that Disney created. I remember one of the episodes, Tigger has lost all of his stripes and he just doesn't know who he is anymore. And so he's going from character to character, trying to decide who he is. He visits Owl, he visits Winnie the Pooh, he visits Piglet, he visits Rabbit. As he's trying to visit these individuals, he's like, who am I? Who am I going to become? One of the people he visits is Rabbit, going, maybe I'm a rabbit, maybe I'm a gardener. So Rabbit gives him the task of protecting his tomatoes. He has his little canister like he's a little soldier marching back and forth, going hop, 2, 3, 4, hop, 2, 3, 4. Halt, who goes there? There's a small little buggy boy about to eat the tomatoes. And he's like, who are you, guy? Well, are you just a little hungry? Okay, I'll give you just one tomato. I suppose one tomato can't hurt. Here you go, little guy. And the little buggy boy goes, oh, thank you. And before you know it, Tigger looks back and all of the tomatoes are just decimated because one little buggy boy told all of his other little buggy boys, and the entire crop is just absolutely decimated. So, is it pests that are utterly destroying you? Or is it fruit? Are you trying to deal with fruit and you just don't get any fruit because you have a whole bunch of leaves and no fruit? Is it a pollination issue? Is it a watering issue? Is it a fertilization issue? You just don't get any fruit and you're trying to figure it out. Or is it the fourth option of, you know what? Just, I don't know, everything is dead. They just die repeatedly, and everything I seem to do just never works whatsoever. So let's go ahead and take a look. I've got one of those four options for you. Help to take a look at it, and we'll go ahead and do that a little bit. We'll tag that a little bit later to see what is the item that is just not doing well for you. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that poll a little bit later. But what is it that you are struggling most with strawberries? So first off, let's get into the bare bones basic. What is a strawberry? A strawberry is a small diamond-shaped, sometimes red, sometimes pink. It can be a few different colors, but it's generally going to be a red hue fruit. It's going to be a perennial that typically will grow between 3 and 5 years old. Its main productive life is going to be in that 2 to 3 year range, and it is an absolutely wonderful crop that is perfect for beginners to start out with. And honestly, I think it is one of the best crops to start out with because it's relatively beginner friendly. It doesn't have a huge amount of space that it takes up. You can plant one in a small little pot on your kitchen table, on your patio, or you can plant thousands of them in your garden. It's a very small, space conducive crop that is very space friendly. And it's delicious. Who doesn't like strawberries? Whether you are eating it in your cereal, eating them fresh right off the vine, I absolutely love strawberries. They are great. They go great in desserts, they grow great in breakfast cereals. It is a wonderful beginner crop. So why not go for it? I do apologize. I'm trying to stay hydrated while we do this new process. So, first off, when looking at strawberries, there are a total of 3 different types of strawberries that you can look at. And different types of strawberries are going to allow you to give you what type of strawberry you get and how much. So, when you're looking at strawberries, you can break them down into 3 different main categories. You're going to have June bearing strawberries, ever-bearing strawberries, and day-neutral strawberries. If you're just starting out, if you are a beginner, I would highly recommend day-neutral strawberries out of the 3, and I'll tell you why. Starting out with probably the most common that most people interact with and which you're most often going to find in a commercial setting are June bearing strawberries. June bearing strawberries are unique in the fact that they will grow a whole bunch of fruit all at once. So if you're looking to pick your strawberries all at once and just have one crop to pick within a 2 to 3 period of time, they're going to come all at once. Juneberry strawberries make it really useful for that period of time. Everbearing strawberries are going to be a little bit more unique where they will have 2 to 3 crops throughout the year. So if you're looking for something to be a little bit more spread out, have a little bit in spring, have a little bit in summer, and then a little bit in fall, then your everbearing strawberry is going to work out well for you. The day neutral strawberries, though, are going to be unique in the fact that they're going to have a little bit sprinkled throughout the entire year. That's why day neutral strawberries I would recommend for beginners, because if you're looking for that satisfaction when you're just starting out, having that instant gratification is going to be useful. You can have a little bit every day throughout the year as long as the weather is permitting. That's why I like day neutral strawberries for beginners. So, just as a recap, June bearing strawberries are going to be a relatively large crop all at once, easy to pick out. That's why commercial growers really, really like them. Everbearing strawberries are going to be 2 to 3 crops throughout the entire year, and day neutral are going to be your onesies, twosies throughout the entire year. So, what type of strawberry should you plant? Well, in all honesty, that really does depend on what type of strawberries are you using it for. June bearing strawberries are really useful for commercial, or if you're really into gardening, if you're really into canning, preserving. June bearing strawberries are perfect. It's going to give you a large batch of strawberries all at once. Like I mentioned before, if you're making jams, if you're freezing, if you're freeze drying, you can get a large batch all at once, making it so that you can have them for your bundles in making jam, in freezing, in freeze drying. If you're doing everbearing, this also kind of works for preserving. You can have a little bit in summer, you can have a little bit in fall. If you're into a little bit more of freeze drying, one of the bad things about freeze drying is that oftentimes when you have summer fruit crops in, when you're using the freeze dry for that, that's when all the other crops come in. And so having everbearing, having a small crop in the spring, small crop in summer, small crop in fall, that is going to expand that grouping out. So that way it makes it the load a little bit easier on your freeze dryer. One other way that you can help to kind of mitigate this is if you're making jams, jellies, and you want to do a large crop and you have the freezer space for it, go ahead and pick the June bearing strawberries, go ahead and pick the everbearing, put them in a freezer or another container, and that way it will allow you to collect them all at once. Day neutral strawberries are going to be really great if you're eating fresh strawberries. Like I mentioned before, you can pick one, you can pick two, have a little bit more for the breakfast, and it's absolutely wonderful. So, when is it that these are produced? We already kind of talked about that. So, that's the basics of what is a strawberry and the type of strawberry that you can get during that period of time. Then we're going to be moving on to planting strawberries. What is the best soil mix? How deep do you plant? Spacing, planting correctly, all of that contains. So first off, strawberries like well draining soil, but they also like to have their roots moist. So that's what I would recommend. Go ahead and plant them in the ground. They like to hold on to water, but not so much that they just get soggy and they die. So, one of the things that I would recommend is having a sandy loam soil. They like water, but they don't like to be soaking wet. One of the ways that you can tell to do this is to go ahead and do what I like to call the finger test. So, take your finger and have the first knuckle, second knuckle. Take it and stick it in the ground. If it is dry up to that second knuckle, then go ahead and give it a little bit of water. If it's still wet, hold off a little bit because it's still going to take a little bit of time for it to get going. If some of this information that you're getting is useful, if you're liking it, then please, I'd love to have you subscribe so that way if we continue to do some more of these live streams, these Q&As, that way we can help to learn and grow from each other just as we help to grow the community overall. So, thank you very much for joining us, and overall just love having you here as we try and get this going. So, with planting, we are looking at the soil types. Oftentimes with strawberries, they like to have well draining. That means a little bit of sand, a little bit of that loamy soil that we talked about. If you're having an issues where you just have a very heavy sandy soil and it's not holding on to it, add a little bit of organic matter. Add some coconut coir, add some peat moss to the soil. That will help to hold on to the soil a little bit more. Add a little bit of grass clippings, different organic matter will really help to hold it into the soil. Let's see here. We have a little bit. So if you guys have any other questions on the live stream, let me know, and I am more too happy to answer them for you as we go through some of these. Talking more a little bit about planting, one of the biggest mistakes that I have found with planting of strawberries is there are going to be typically three zones of a strawberry. You're going to have the bottom zone, which is going to be the root zone of the crops. The center is going to be the crown. The top are going to be the leaves. One common big mistake in dealing with strawberries and planting them is how deep do you go? It's kind of like with doing limbo. How low do you go? Typically, if you plant them a little bit too high, they can dry out and then they're going to die. If you plant them too deep, then you can cause root rot. So, ideally, you want to plant them level with the ground soil so that way you'll have just the right amount. If you do too deep, it can trap it. If you go too high, then it will kill it due to that root rot, as I kind of mentioned a little bit before. So, getting it just right is going to help you out. So, one of the biggest mistakes that I've had is I oftentimes have a tendency of planting the I oftentimes, when I plant strawberries, will plant them in bare roots. So they're a little bit more established. And one of the issues that I've had is sometimes I've planted them too deep. And unfortunately, that can kill them. And it's one of the bigger things that I've struggled with. Oh, excuse me. I do apologize about that. And that is one of the things that having a buffer of a well draining soil will allow you to help give you a little bit of buffer zone so it doesn't go too deep. That's one of the things that helping with rich organic matter in the soil as well can help in dealing with that situation. So as we're planting, that kind of goes into the key of what do you want your plant your strawberries in? One of the great things about strawberries is they're so small, they're so versatile. They can either fit in a 1 gallon container or they can fit in a large garden bed. They're absolutely so versatile. And that is what I love about strawberries is they are one of the most portable plants ever. Now, one of the key factors that you're looking at with containers is they're small, they're portable. You can stick them on a kitchen table. If it's in the middle of winter time and you're getting those winter blues, then go ahead and plant the strawberry on your kitchen table. It'll grow warm. The main struggle is need to give it a little bit of sunlight, but you'll be able to grow and pick fresh strawberries in the middle of the cold winter. But it's kind of limiting in space, and so you've got to do multiple containers time and time again. If you're dealing with larger containers, though, you'll have more space for the strawberries to spread out. You'll be able to have better water retention. Going back to the containers, that's one of the problems with containers is they tend to dry out a little bit more and they can have some issues with it drying out. And you'll have to water it just a little bit more. If you're planting in larger containers, then it will allow the soil to maintain that moisture a little bit more, and you won't have as many major fluctuations in hot or cold. Dealing with temperatures as well. If you're in the smaller pots, you have the positives of that portability, but you also have the negatives of major temperature swings. If it's outside, if it gets really hot, if it gets really cold, it'll be much more susceptible. If you have a larger container, you're going to have a base that will allow you to deal with those major temperature swings. One of the key things is dealing with retention. There are positives and negatives. Dealing with those containers as well. One of the great things about strawberries is they throw out runners that will allow them to have multiply and replenish the earth. The strawberries will throw out runners, and you can have a strawberry patch that grows really, really well. By having strawberries in a container, that makes it a little bit harder because these runners are often self-rooting, self-developing, and you're not going to be able to get a strong strawberry patch if you're just in containers. But if you are in a raised garden bed, then those strawberries are going to expand heavily, allowing you to actually develop a strong patch. So that's one of the other positives about having it in raised beds or in the ground is you're going to be able to get much more strawberries across the entire thing. We mentioned briefly about strawberries, about watering of the strawberries. And just to kind of swing back to that, watering can be a really huge thing because strawberries in early spring absolutely need a large amount of water. Without that water, you're not going to get leaf development. You're not going to get strawberry development. You're not going to get those blossoms that you need. And in the end, that's going to hurt your crop. So they are, on average, going to need anywhere between an inch to an inch and a half of water per a week. And if you don't give it enough water, then they can dry out and die. And you're just going to get really poor flower development, which means in the end, you won't get strawberries. Now, what are some of the ways that you can tell if you're underwatering, overwatering? We already mentioned the finger method, and that's by far one of the most popular ones that I enjoy doing. The next thing that I like to do is take a look at the leaves. Are the leaves yellow? Are they wilted? The coloration of the leaves will tell you a lot based on that. Does it physically look healthy? Is it drooping? Well, that may be a sign that you have too much water. Are the leaves crispy, dry, crinkly? That's probably a sign that they're not getting enough water and they're going to need some more. Go ahead, add a little bit more water, and it will help you out in replenishing that out. Mhm. So, how is the best way to water? In all honesty, there's really no right or wrong way to water. As long as the plant is getting water, you're good. There are ways that you can do it to improve it a little bit. One of the things that I like to do is if you're able to water at ground level, whether it's drip irrigation or a soaker hose, and that will help to limit the amount of water that gets on the leaves. Why is this important? Water on the leaves can help encourage there to be fungal growth, whether it is um, white spot or black mold on the leaves. That can encourage mold growth, that can encourage fungus growth, which could then hamper or kind of weaken the leaves a little bit. So if you're able to water at ground level, that's going to significantly help to improve the health of the strawberries. But as long as they're able to get the water, I would rather water from a can or from a hose over the top of the leaves and have it drip down to the ground than the leaves not get done at all. Next, we're going to be moving on to sunlight. Strawberries absolutely need sunlight. They are a plant that thrives in the sun. If you shove them to the shade, they are not going to do well. And so, on average, they're going to need anywhere between 6 to 8 hours of sunlight for full sun. And that's direct sunlight, not partial shade, not full shade. They need full sun. They love to lay out on the beach. They love to tan. Give them that full sun. If they don't have it, they're going to struggle. Their fruit production is going to be limited and they're not going to do as well. So, what fully happens if you'll get not enough sunlight? Well, there's a few key factors to indicate that the plant needs more sunlight. One is it's going to have a ton of green leaves. The plant is struggling to produce its own sunlight through photosynthesis, and so it's going to produce more of its energy into production of leaves so it can make itself some food. That's often one indicator. Another indicator is that the plant just doesn't look healthy. It's wilted, it's kind of withering a little bit. And one of the other major key factors, if your plant is not getting enough sunlight, is no fruit. If the plant is struggling, if it doesn't get enough sunlight, it's going to put more of its energy into survival and not fruit production. So if you can't get fruit, that's going to be one of the major key factors of why you're not getting any fruit. So keep that in mind. And so, is this one of the key factors for those of you that want to grow strawberries indoors? That can be a key problem or a key indicator is getting enough sunlight. So, what does that mean? That's going to mean finding a window that can receive that full sunlight. That is going to be trying to do supplemental light, whether it's an incandescent fluorescent light bulb for artificial light, or the best way is just giving it a nice big open bay window. And if you are growing out indoors, remember to take that strawberry and rotate it every so often because oftentimes the plant is going to grow towards the light or towards one way or the other, and it's just going to be kind of tippy turvy. So go ahead and rotate that strawberry plant, go ahead and rotate that other plant, and that will encourage it to help grow straight up rather than in just one particular direction. If you are planting that strawberry indoors. So we talked about it a little bit in talking about sunlight, but how is it you get more fruit? You're growing strawberries, you're giving it fertilizer, you're giving it sun, you're giving it water, it's in good, healthy ground soil, but you're just not getting fruit. Why is that? What are some of the things preventing you from getting fruit? Well, one of the main key factors about strawberry getting fruit is flowers. Strawberries are a flowering fruit. If you don't get flowers, you're not going to get fruit. You need to get good fertilizer, good energy. The plant itself needs to be healthy and it needs to have good pollination. If you don't have all of those key factors, then you're not going to get fruit. But the good news is that's relatively easy. If you're getting good, consistent watering, and if you're not having consistent watering, that is going to be one of the main struggles of not getting fruit. So, having consistent, gradual amounts of water, inch to an inch and a half per a week. If you're getting a whole bunch of water and then letting it dry out and getting no water, and then a whole bunch of water and then no water, you're going to be stressing that plant out. So, having consistent watering will encourage it. Flower and root production are both produced off of a fertilizer or a plant nutrient called phosphorus. So, as long as you are low in phosphorus, you're going to struggle with flowers. So, what I would recommend is if you aren't getting good blossoms, try adding a fertilizer with when you're looking at fertilizer, there's going to be three numbers. The first number stands for nitrogen, the second number stands for phosphorus, and the third number stands for potassium. That middle number is the number that you're looking for that's going to encourage flower production. So when you're looking for a fruit and vegetable fertilizer, typically it's going to have a higher middle number. So if you want to encourage that flower production, that fruit production, give it a little bit of fertilizer that has that first number. If you give it a fertilizer that has a really, really high first number, then you're going to have a plant with a whole lot of leaves because that's for nitrogen, and it's going to encourage leaf production, but it's not going to do much in the floral production. So that's why having the right type of fertilizer and adding to it is going to do better for you. We already talked about sunlight. We already talked about fertilizers now, and we've also talked about having a good balanced soil. The other thing that I briefly talked about, but now want to stress a little bit more, is pollination. If you don't get pollination, you're not going to get any fruit production. Now, what does that mean? when you have a small little fruit, you're going to have pollen and you're also going to have a little bit of nectar. That pollen and nectar is going to encourage insects to come to the flower, pick up some nectar that's inside. And while that insect, whether it's a honeybee, whether it's a butterfly, or another type of pollen collecting, nectar collecting insect, they're going to be crawling all over that flower, and that pollen is going to collect on that insect. And as they go from flower to flower collecting nectar, they're going to be dispersing that pollen. That pollen is going to be the sperm, if you will, that falls into the egg of the strawberry. And that how is the act of pollination. That is how you spread the egg to the sperm and the egg to have it be mated together within the flower. And by properly doing that, that's going to allow you to get good strawberry production. Now, most strawberries are self-pollinating, meaning if the strawberry is all the flowers are coming on that one strawberry plant, then you can have the insect or the other pollinator go from flower to flower to flower all within that same plant. But it can struggle a little bit. So if you have 2, 3, 4, 5 strawberry plants, so that way you can get cross pollination, that's going to allow you to have much better fruit production on the strawberry. And if you're in an area where you just don't have good pollinators, whether you don't have your own honeybees, whether you're not seeing butterflies, there is a cheat sheet. There's a cheat code that you can make where you can artificially pollinate your own strawberries. Go down to your local craft store and get yourself a small little 50-cent watercolor paintbrush and just go from flower to flower, just dabbing it on. And that way you can artificially pollinate each individual flower. And that will help to encourage you to get your flowers and strawberries pollinated to get more. So, as you're developing strawberries, as they grow, as they develop, they're going to procreate. You're going to be able to create new strawberries. And one of the things they're going to do is they're going to be creating runners. That is a new baby strawberry plant. Now, one of the interesting things about strawberries is they will actually self-clone. They are one of the easiest plants to propagate because as that plant grows up, it's going to grow a small new little baby plant and it's going to have a small little vine shoot off and what's called a runner where it will plant a new plant, a new plant, a new plant. And very quickly you can create a full patch of strawberries, creating a strawberry patch. And you can go from 1 to 5 to 25 strawberry plants very, very quickly. And it's a really great way of having, in a sense, self-cloning strawberries that makes it really, really great. But one of the problems is that takes a great deal of energy. And so oftentimes when your strawberry plant is 1 year old and it's starting to throw out those runners, maybe I would recommend picking those runners off. So that way all the energy can go into producing a much stronger plant rather than it going to a small little runner. But if it's the end of the season and your goal is to create more strawberry plants, so next year you can get a whole lot more strawberries, go ahead and let the runners go. And this is actually a really key, cool factor in having a huge crop of strawberry plants. Now, a little bit earlier in the stream, I mentioned that strawberries are a perennial plant and they're going to live anywhere between 3 and 5 years. At the end of that 4 or 5 year mark, the production value of strawberries, they're going to produce much less. But if you allow those strawberries to create runners and have a strawberry plant, a patch, it will create a good, strong group where the strawberries are able to really have a strong grouping and you'll get really delicious strawberries. One of the things that I like to do, though, that can be a problem is year 1, you're not going to get many strawberries. Year 2, you're going to get more strawberries. Year 3, you're going to get a ton of strawberries. Then year 4, year 5, your production is going to quickly drop off. So one of the things that I like to do is year 1, I'll plant a batch of strawberries, and then I'll let them throw out runners and kind of expand a little bit. Year 2, on a second patch, I'll plant another group of strawberries. Year 3, I'll plant another group of strawberries. I personally like to have 3 groupings of strawberries, and so you're only year 1, year 2, year 3, they're all going to be in different stages of strawberries. And so that way you can encourage yourself to have a nice, good crop of strawberries. It'll take 3 years for the momentum to build up. But once you get to year 3 and planting those 3 separate groups of strawberries, that momentum will be well worth it. And so that way you'll be able to have a nice, good, continuous group and cropping of strawberries. So that is one of the things that we have to consider in dealing with runners is, do you want to cut them? Do you want to leave them? Or how do you want to deal with it? One of the things that often happens though with strawberries in dealing with it is dealing with those. So now we're moving on. How do you get more fruit? We talked about doing the 3 separate patches. That is one of the best ways of how you get more strawberries consistently, is using the nature of the perennial strawberries and allowing it to grow. Next item is feeding your strawberries. Strawberries are very heavy feeders depending on the time of the year. In early spring, they're going to use a ton of nitrogen. In high summer, when they start fruiting, pollinating, they're going to be using a ton of phosphorus. And throughout the entire year, they're going to want a lot of potassium, along with a bunch of other micronutrients, whether it is iron, copper, or other micros that you can add to the soil. Oftentimes, iron is going to be your biggest micro that is encouragement. And if you have really great soil, if you've been adding soil amendments, if you have good fertilizers, and you have 20 years of building up that soil that's just absolutely fantastic, you're not going to need to add fertilizers. But in all honesty, we always don't have that ability. We don't have the luxury of being able to say what type of nutrients we need in the soil. And so sometimes we're going to have to artificially add nutrients. And so that's why I would recommend a good balanced fertilizer. One that I absolutely love is called Trifecta. It is a balanced fertilizer, 10-10-10. It's got the 3 main nutrients of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, as well as some micronutrients in it. Trifecta is a perfect organic low grade fertilizer to help you out that you could add to the soil to encourage it to grow. There are other really great fertilizers. If you want to tailor your fertilizer to the time of year that you're planting your strawberries, in the beginning of the season, add a little bit more nitrogen. In the middle of the season, add something with a higher middle number, or get something that is a good general fruit and vegetable throughout the entire year. When you're dealing with fertilizers, there's 2 different fertilizers that you can add. There's going to be a granular slow release fertilizer, or there's going to be a liquid fertilizer. They both have their positives and negatives. Granular fertilizers are going to be a slow release. As water comes in contact with it, it's going to slowly release nutrients into the soil. It's not going to give it a whole bunch, but it's going to give it a little bit throughout a period of time. And so you can add some granular fertilizer, and it will slowly trickle that fertilizer in over a 6-8 week period of time, which works really great for the long run. But if you need a lot of nutrients all at once, then liquid fertilizer is really great too. It's going to give you a whole bunch of nutrients all at once, but it'll go fairly quickly. And so you're going to have to add it a little bit more frequently. So those fertilizers have their both positives and negatives. So those are just a few tips that you can deal in helping with strawberries to help encourage that fruit production. Moving along is plants. These strawberries are going to have a growth cycle. They're going to have plants that grow. Sometimes the leaves will die, and sometimes they'll have fruit that can kind of rot. So go ahead and help keep your plants clean. If you have leaves that die or yellowing, go ahead and trim them back, pick them off. If you got runners that are just absolutely exploding, then go ahead and prune those runners off a little bit. And that will allow you to help maintain the cleanliness of those strawberries, so they're not pumping as much energy into it. By also trimming those leaves away, by pruning those runners away if they die, that's going to help increase airflow. That's going to help control the humidity around the plant. It's going to increase the airflow. It's going to reduce the pest pressure because there's not as much rotting material for pests to go ahead and eat. So that is one of the things that I'd recommend. As a part of helping to encourage strawberries to grow, there is mulching. Whether you are using straw, whether you're using old dry grass clippings, or you can go ahead and add some mulch or some bark material. Mulching is a huge game changer when it comes to strawberries. That's going to make it much easier to help regulate the water ups and downs. It's not going to dry out as quickly. By adding mulch to it, it's going to help trap water in the soil. It's going to help maintain those localized water consistency. The other thing that it really does well too is if you have the mulch on top, when those fruits start to grow, it's going to sit on top of the mulch. It's going to help protect the strawberries. If those strawberries are sitting on wet, soggy soil, then it's going to really damage potential of the fruit and it's going to make it not as delicious. So there's many different types of materials that you can use to help in mulching your strawberries. The nice thing is if you're mulching year after year over a period of several years, as that mulch starts to break down, it's going to slowly help to add organic matter to the soil. It's helped to go build the soil profile of your area and add nutrients to the soil year after year. So by the time you get to year 2, year 3, and as you're adding that nutrient material, it's going to allow your fertilizer nutrient value in the soil to grow as well. So by the time you get to year 4 or 5 on your strawberry patch, you want to pull those strawberries out. You can go ahead and till that mulch into the soil to help really encourage it to build that overall soil profile. So just by doing these small little maintenance things can really help the overall end progress of your strawberries. Now, we're going to be moving on to pests of strawberries. One of my biggest frustrations when I'm dealing with strawberries is pests. I spend all season long dealing with strawberries. So I plant the strawberry, I nurture it, I let it grow, it flowers, it starts to build, it fruits. You have the white strawberry, and then it turns to red. And I go out the next morning to pick strawberries for deliciousness, and there's a big old bite right out of it because slugs or a bird came and just took a bite out of it. Or I've got aphids that are just absolutely destroying the strawberries because just as much as I like strawberries, the buggy boys, just like in the past with Tigger, those little buggy boys like to eat the strawberries as well. And it's absolutely frustrating. So, how do you control pests? Well, in all honesty, different places where you live can kind of depend on what kind of pest you're dealing with. What the pest is that you're dealing with will really depend on how you manage that out. So if you're dealing something like small insects, like a puncture insects, like aphids, one of the best things that you could do is find a nice, really low grade, whether it's insecticidal soap. One of the things that I really like is a product called Triple Action. I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically an organic insecticide, fungicide, miticide, where it helps to do all three all at once. Oftentimes, I absolutely love it. It only gives me about a week to 2 weeks worth of protection, but it's a low grade, organic certified thing that is safe for human consumption only in about 24 hours. Insecticidal soap is another really good one to help control aphids. There are many things that you can do to spray your insects or spray your strawberries to help control it. If you don't like using chemical sprays, if you don't like using some of those artificial means in controlling it, one of the things that you can do is you have your bad buggy boys, but you're also going to have your good buggy boys too. They're going to be beneficial insects. So whether it is ladybugs, whether it's praying mantis, there are other things that will eat aphids, that will eat those predatory insects to make it much better. Now, there's always the problem with beneficial insects is there's going to be a threshold. They're never going to fully take care of all of the bad insects. There's going to be kind of a balanced threshold where they eat and attack each other. But there will be that balance where you will be able to get some of that fruit. So one of the things that you can do is sometimes these insects that like to eat your fruit, they like to hide. So look underneath the leaves, look on top, look on the stem, look all around like you're playing hide and seek for the buggy boys. They like to hide. Oftentimes they're going to come out at night a little bit more. So when you're dealing with early morning, dusk, that's when you're more likely to see some of these insects. Now, insects are not going to be your only problem of a pest that eat your strawberries. One thing that you can do is sometimes you're going to deal with invertebrates as well. So you're going to deal with slugs and snails. One of my biggest foes that I have to fight with strawberries is slugs and snails. They are absolutely horrendous. And there's a few things that you can use to help fight against slugs, and that is going to be, if you want to use a dry form, diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth works wonderfully. You can just draw a small little ring around your strawberries and they can't get to it. As the slugs go across that diatomaceous earth, they act as little glass shards and they just tear up the slug, and they don't like crossing it. So that will help to protect your strawberry. The only problem with diatomaceous earth is it has to stay dry. So if you do a lot of overhead watering, that's going to wash away your diatomaceous earth, and you're going to have to reapply it. So it can and can't be helpful. So it can be a little bit frustrating. But diatomaceous earth is just a small fine powder. It works really, really well. If you are a drinker or if you're not a drinker, doesn't matter. But I found something that really, really helps against slugs and snails is beer. For some reason, that yeasty smell in beer, slugs and snails absolutely love it. So what you can do is go take a small little dish and set it out periodically around the areas. Take small little bowls, take old pie tins, take small Tupperware, something like that, and put a small amount of beer inside that. And the yeast smell of the beer is going to attract slugs and snails to go congregate like it's a small little hot tub. They're like, sweet, it's a hot tub, it's party, let's go enjoy it. And they're going to go sit in that little bath of beer, and the alcohol is going to eat them away, kind of like an acid. It sounds a little gruesome, but it's very effective. And oftentimes it works well. And it is another nice organic method of how you can try and take care of slugs and snails. Another way you can take care of slugs and snails, and this one, if you don't like using beer, if you don't want to use insecticides, pesticides, things like that, another way is just good old fashioned physically going out there and picking a slug or snail up off. Oftentimes, they like to be around the dusk, dawn period of time. So if you have during those times, you can just physically go out and pick the slug off. But it's a very tedious and slow process, and I ain't got time for that. So wait a little bit longer and just let it do its thing. Another method that I like to use for slugs and snails is just environmental factors. Slugs and snails like a very moist, humid environment. So if you control the humidity, if you control the water patterns, if you don't have a lot of dead leaves, like if you're picking those dead leaves off of your plant, if you have mulch or other areas to help contain it, if you're doing proper plant management, if you're not overwatering wet, soggy soils, that's going to diminish the high moisture, and that's going to diminish the likelihood that you get slugs and snails. If you give them an environment to encourage them to party, they're going to come to the party. So by creating an environment and managing it with the full sunlight, lowering the water so it's more manageable level, that's going to help control the slugs. The next major pest that I absolutely hate and is by far one of my biggest foe is birds. Birds are one of my biggest nemesis. They will eat the strawberries when they are a light shade of pink. And there's just a giant chunk taken right out of the strawberry, and it's just on the ground. One of the there's a couple different ways that you can help to combat birds. Around my area, there's a lot of hawks, there's a lot of red-tailed hawks, there's a lot of owls that will hunt these birds that will help to kind of control the population. Because of those predatory birds that hunt these other birds that eat the strawberries, what you can do is you can add a stationary owl that just kind of has its head wiggle around in the wind. You can go ahead and add a fake plastic hawk. You can use artificial things to encourage the birds to stay away. If you're going to use these artificial mechanisms to encourage it to go away, go ahead and every couple days move that owl around, because if it just stays there, those birds are going to get used to it and they're not going to move. So by taking that fake owl, that fake predatory hawk, move it around a little bit so it doesn't become as common. Another really good thing that you can do is this really works if you have a smaller area or you have them in rows with the strawberry patch. Use bird netting. That's one of the things that is absolutely most effective that I found that works really well is using bird netting. I like to get bird netting down at my local farm and ranch store. I can buy them in 7 foot by 100-foot rolls. And oftentimes, what I'll do is I will get the netting and I will take small little arches of PVC pipe and make a small little hoop that arches over the strawberries. Then I will go ahead and drape the netting over the strawberry and I will run it along that tunnel. Now, why can't you just take the netting and just throw it right over the strawberries? Well, honestly, that's not going to do you any good. If the netting is sitting directly on top of the strawberries, then the bird is just going to land right on the strawberries and peck through the netting because it's about a half-inch by half-inch square and it's small enough that the bird will be able to peck through the netting. So you'll want to take the netting and elevate it up above the strawberries just a little bit so it doesn't have direct access to them. If you want to help with aphids or other insects, you can do a fine mesh netting that can also go over the strawberries as well. The trouble with this, though, sometimes is it can and hinder some of the watering if you're doing overhead watering. So that's where drip irrigation can come in handy for your strawberries. If you live in the desert like I do, another major pest that is unique to me, or if you're in the high plains, another major pest that I had to deal with is rodents, whether it's mice, rats, rabbits. They absolutely love eating strawberries. And that is another pest that you have to deal with. Once again, having those predatory birds, owls, hawks, will help to control that rodent population. There are sprays, there are smelly sprays that you can use to help encourage it. There's coyote urine that you can spray around the area to encourage it to go away. One of the things that I have found really helpful is in my area, there's a lot of barn cats. There are wild cats, and they help to encourage the rats, the mice, the rabbits to go away. But once again, having an environment, controlling that thing where there's not leaves sitting on the ground. There isn't fruit that's rotting. If you're going out every morning and picking the fruit consistently, so there is an old plant material that will encourage so that there's not as much of a food source to encourage the mice, the rats, the rabbits to come and eat it. Another really major issue that I found that had to be in my particular area is deer. Deer will devastate my strawberries, and it's absolutely frustrating. So, how do you combat that? I use automated blinky lights where they're motion sensor, where the deer will come in, and if they activate a motion sensor light, they go and they freak out and they go running off. Or if there is a high foot 7 fence that they can't quite jump over. But deer are probably one of the harder animals to defend against because a bird net, they'll just plow right through it. They are very big, 100+ pound animals that can easily destroy a barrier that would easily defeat a bird. So deer are probably one of the harder plants to take care of. So one of the things that I like to do is I will plant my strawberries a little bit closer with its fence material, or I'll plant marigolds or some other flowers that are a little bit more delicious, tulips, on the outer edge of the garden. So that way I have sacrificial plants that the deer will go and eat, versus my own strawberries. Or another thing that I'll do is I will ring my gardens with barberry bushes. I will give it some sharp, pointy thorn bushes to help act as a natural defense mechanism, a wall, if you will, to help guard the strawberries from these other things. All of these things included are going to have an issue. Give me just 1 second because the battery on my computer is about to die. So we are going to go ahead and plug her in because I forgot to do that. All right. Thank you for bearing with me in just a moment as I got a notification of, hey, your computer's about to turn off because you didn't plug it in. So always remember to plug in your computer. So as you're dealing with pests, what are some ways that you can combat it? Overall, this entire process that we've been talking about pests and fighting against your strawberries, it is an acronym called IPM. What this acronym stands for is integrated pest management. Depending on what you need to do is how you solve the problem and what you're specifically fighting. Is it's not just one problem. Oh, I have one aphid, I have two aphids. I'm going to just go ahead and destroy everything in insecticides and wipe it all out. That's great. You can do that. You're going to get lots of strawberries. Is it economically viable? Is it worth it? I can spend hundreds of dollars on chemicals spraying my strawberries for $1 worth of strawberries. Is it going to give me lots of strawberries? Yes, but is it worth it? There is a specific threshold that you have when you're dealing with this. And it's not necessarily the best method. And if you don't do anything, then you're never going to get delicious strawberries to eat because just like Tigger, going back to the Buggy Boys, they're going to eat everything and you're not going to have everything yourself. And that's the reason why we're growing strawberries. That is the ultimate reason why we're doing everything so that we selfishly can eat strawberries because they're delicious. And if you want to grow strawberries so you can donate them to nature to feed wildlife, good on you. Go for it. That's not me. I grow strawberries so I can eat them. I grow strawberries so my family can eat them. I grow strawberries so I can put them in jam, so I can preserve them for winter, so that way we can consume them for our daily consumption. Call me selfish, but that's what it is. So, depending on what your pest is how you manage it. So, as a part of integrated pest management, one of the key factors to help you control integrated pest management is we've already talked about it a few times, but that's going to be the health of the plant. Do you have old leaves that are rotting? Pick them off. Do you have some soft, moldy mushiness? Get rid of it. Help encourage airflow. Help to put mulch on the ground. That's going to allow the fruit not to sit down. It's not going to have it rot. Is it drying out? All of these factors are a part of integrated pest management to help you control that issue. And ultimately, in the end, help you get what we're ultimately going for is to eat delicious, yummy strawberries. Let me go ahead and look at my notes a little bit more. So, yummy, delicious strawberries. We want to eat them. What does a ripe strawberry look like? It's finally time to pay off. There's different times you can pick strawberries. I see strawberries where people are picking them when they're white. Some of my daughters, they will pick strawberries when they're completely light. They're like, ooh, berry, yoink. And they go to eat it, and it's not yummy, but they pick it anyway. So that's kind of a hindrance that we're working on teaching them about. They will pick strawberries when they're pink. And oftentimes, that's how a lot of commercial growers will pick strawberries, is when they're a little bit pink. Are they technically ripe? No, but they will artificially ripen them up by exposing them to ethylene gas. and that will allow them to ripen up. And so when you go to eat strawberries in the grocery store and they're just kind of bland and they don't taste very good, that's because they're harvesting them too early. But there's a good reason for it. When you wait till strawberries are fully ripe to pick them, yes, the flavor is at its peak, it's at its deliciousness, but they're also kind of soft, they're kind of mushy, and they're only going to last a couple of days. When you want to pick strawberries, stick them on a truck and send them off to your grocery store. They're going to be bumped and jostled around. They're going to be packaged. They're going to be bruised. They're going to be damaged in the packaging and shipping process. And then they're going to sit on the shelf for days, week plus. And by that point in time, they're going to get moldy. They're going to get old. And so commercial growers will pick strawberries early and artificially ripen them up. But in doing so, that flavor is not going to be fully developed. And so by fully developing that and picking it when it's ripe, when it's a nice deep red, that's when you're going to get biggest flavor. That strawberry is going to sit in the full sun. It's going to soak, it's going to tan. Those sugars inside the strawberry have time to develop. So you have peak ripeness, and that's going to give you the most delicious fruit. Now, if you want to wait till they're nice and ripe and you still want to go ahead and save them for canning for large preservations, go ahead and freeze them. That will allow you to package them all at a large amount. But give it some time, have a little bit of patience. Yes, you're probably going to lose some to birds. Yes, you're probably going to lose some to slugs, but that's when they're so delicious. And that's when it's going to be best. That's when I encourage you to wait. Let it be fully ripe, and that will be well worth it. So moving on with our peak ripeness, how many strawberries can you expect to get from one plant? Oftentimes, when you're looking at harvesting strawberries, you can expect it to vary based on how old the strawberry plant is. Year one, you're going to get a few strawberries. Year two, you're going to get more strawberries. Year three is when you're going to get the most strawberries. And at the peak of its growing season, you're going to get anywhere between a pound to a pound and a half of strawberries per plant. Now, is this really enough for me? No, I absolutely love strawberries. I will destroy strawberries. I oftentimes will go through hundreds of pounds of strawberries per a year with my family when all is said and done. When we're talking about fresh eating, jams, frozen, smoothies, my protein shakes in the morning as I go to work out, as I do those things. Some of the strawberries I freeze dry. I'm going to deal with hundreds of pounds of strawberries. And so one plant is not going to be enough. So how do I combat that? Well, I grow 10 plants. I grow 15 plants. I grow 100 plants. I grow thousands of plants of strawberries. So that way I can get more production. And one of the ways that you can have nice, consistent production, because strawberries, like I mentioned, have a peak, as we talked about before. Year one, year two, year three really peaks up. Year four, year five, it just drops. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, by having multiple patches, planting one batch year one, plant another patch year two, plant another patch year three. That way you don't have no strawberries, lots of strawberries, no strawberries, lots of strawberries as a roller coaster that's going to even out your production from year to year. That will take a few years to go, but once you have it developed, that's going to give you a consistent harvest from year to year. So if you're gaining value from this, if you're finding value, please share, like, comment. One of the things that we really like with this process is that it really helps out. And the more you share, if this information is being helpful for you, then let us know at the time. And aside from this, if you have any questions that we can answer for you directly, whether it's you're not getting any fruit or you're trying to help with the watering, no watering pests, let us know in the questions. We have this live Q&A to help you out. That's what we want to do, to help us out specifically. And that's one of the things that I want to try and do these live Q&As a little bit more specifically, to help tailor make it to you on what we can do to best help you out on what is working out with that process. So we've got strawberries, we've harvested them, we've got peak deliciousness, and we're going through this process. So it's now we've got spring, summer care, we've taken care of them, we've done integrated pest management, we've done everything we can to help control it. And now we're getting to the point where it's winter time. Strawberries are what's called a perennial plant, where there is a peak where they will grow up, they'll live in high summer, and then come winter time, they're going to die off. They're going to hibernate during the winter time. So now it is time to put the strawberries to bed to help them prepare for winter. Strawberries have what is called a required frost period of time. If they don't get that cold weather, they're not going to produce fruit. Now, oftentimes they're going to need anywhere between 3 and 500 hours of frost production. That often is going to translate anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks of cold weather to help encourage it to grow. And what does that look like? Well, we're going into winter care. So, first off, let it have its leaves, let it go ahead and build up its photosynthesis, and that will help to build its food reserves. So, as it's going into winter, it can properly hibernate. Another thing that you can do is as we're moving into winter time, is take the leaves, grab the whole bunch, and just hack their head off. Just chop those leaves and get rid of them. By getting rid of those leaves, what you do is you get rid of that plant material so it doesn't mold, it doesn't rot. And that way you can encourage that material to stay hibernated. It helps to encourage so bugs and other things don't come and eat it. Another thing that you can do is give it a little bit of mulch, help protect it. Strawberries can withstand really, really cold temperatures down to -5 degrees Fahrenheit. They can withstand very cold temperatures as long as they are properly insulated. What does that look like? You can use straw, you can use bark chips, you can just use the natural soil itself to help out. I live in the high, cold mountains of the Intermountain Northwest. And sometimes we get feet of snow in one storm. Oftentimes you go, oh no, that snow is going to be really cold and it can kill it. Well, actually, that snow acts as an insulation factor to help out those strawberry plants to help keep warm just a little bit. And another thing to kind of help it with wintertime is even though they are hibernating, they still need a little bit of water. In most cases, if you get a little bit of winter rain, if you get a little bit of snow, that snow melt, that winter rain will help to give that water what it needs to survive. But if you're in a particularly strange winter where it's very, very dry, then on average, give it a little bit of water. If it's a warm winter day, 40 degrees, go ahead and give it a little bit of water because even though they are in the wintertime hibernating, they are still a breathing animal. They are a breathing plant. They still need a little bit of water to keep it going. It still drinks. It's a very small amount, but it still needs some. So as you go through that process, that will help to encourage it, help survive through the winter time. Let's see here. So going back to in the very beginning of the stream, we talked about if you're growing in containers. If you're growing a strawberry plant in a container, that strawberry plant is going to be above ground. It's not going to have the benefit of insulation that the ground provides. And it's going to be very, very vulnerable to major freezing temperatures. Well, it's a container. It's a small portable unit. Pick it up, stick it in your garage, give it some shelter so that way it's not going to be exposed to the harshest extreme conditions. It still can withstand some of those cold temperatures, but protect it. It's going to need a little bit more of that benefit to be able to withstand that. So those are a few things that you can do to help it withstand those really cold winter temperatures. Um, as we move on a little bit factor, let's see here. So, are there any questions that may pop up that you're wondering? Let us know, and I'm more than happy to answer them. That's one of the things that I want to do about these Q&As is to help encourage those, help answer those, even if you are in the later streams that's not part of the live stream, answer in some of the comments below, and that way it'll help to learn and grow from each other. So that way we can encourage to learn from each other. So now we are moving on to some of the biggest mistakes that beginners make. And let's go ahead and do a little bit of a recap of the strawberries. And let's look at some of the major mistakes that people make with strawberries. Mistake number 1, planting strawberries too deep. Strawberries have a crown. They like to have moist, wet feet, but if you give them too much water, they're going to rot, they're going to die. So make certain that you don't plant that crown of that strawberry too deep. You want the crown to be, so if this is the strawberry crown, you want that ground to be ground level with it. Not too high, not too low. You want it to be right at ground level. If you do too deep, it will kill your strawberry plant. Mistake number 2, overwatering. If you have poor planting, if you overwater, that is another factor that can kill the strawberries. So use the finger method. Stick your finger in the soil, go up to the second nuggle. If it's dry, give it a little bit of water. If it's too moist, give it a day or two. And depending on how you're planting them, if you're in a raised bed, you won't have to water as often. If it's in a container above ground, it's going to drain out much quicker. And so you are going to have to add water more frequently because it's going to dry out more frequently. Environmental factors will have a huge factor on how often you have to water and if you are overwatering or underwatering. Third biggest mistake that people often make is not giving strawberry plants enough sunlight. Strawberries need anywhere between 6 to 8 hours of sunlight per a day. And so it loves the sun. It needs the sun. If it doesn't have enough shade, then if it doesn't have enough sun, it's going to try and put all of its energy into growing leaves, and that's going to greatly reduce the amount of production that you get on your strawberries. So make certain that your strawberries have enough sunlight. Issue and major mistake number 4 that people often do is going to be ignoring your runners. Now, as we mentioned before, with dealing with runners, runners on strawberries are going to be a good and bad. Runners are how strawberries procreate. That's going to give you 5x, 10x, 100x amount of strawberries in the long run. And so runners aren't necessarily a bad thing. They are a good thing. I encourage my strawberries to produce runners in the fall. But there's going to be so much energy that the strawberry plant puts into creation of these runners that they're not producing strawberry plants. They're not building a strong root system. The plant itself is growing to grow weaker. So for me personally, if the strawberry plant itself is not strong, I will cut out those runners. I will first encourage the plant to be strong. Just like ourselves as individuals, if we as individuals are not strong, healthy, getting 8 hours of sleep a night, if we're not properly having a good balanced meal every day, if we're not exercising, those things can help to not have ourselves be strong. If we ourselves are not strong, we cannot help others. Just like the strawberry plant itself needs to be strong. Good water, good sunlight, good fertilizer. And when everything else is taken care of, then let the strawberry plant create runners and have a nice, good, strong strawberry plant. One of the things that's not often considered is, yes, the strawberry, by creating a runner, is going to create another plant. But if the strawberry patch is too thick, all it's doing is creating a competitor. Yes, you're going to get strawberry plants, but it's going to create competition between the two strawberry plants itself. So if it's not established, if it's not strong, and you don't have a good basis, good soil, good nutrients available in the soil, then in a sense, that strawberry is going to be a little bit self-defeating by creating a whole bunch of runners. There needs to be balance in that production. Fifth mistake that people often make is going to be poor soil. If you have a very heavy sandy soil, the water, the nutrients are just going to flush right through. If you have a heavy clay soil, you're going to get water pooling up, you're going to get no drainage, and the plants are going to rot because there is no proper drainage because it's just a heavy clay. There's not good organic matter in the soil. And so there's just not nutrients available. Everything is just going to hit, flush off, and it's not well balanced. By having a good soil structure and encouraging it to grow, then you're going to be able to help encourage the plant to grow itself too. So, out of these five major mistakes, one, two, three, four, or five, what mistake is it that you most often do? Let me know in the comments below. What is the major mistake that you have in your strawberry plants to help prevent it from growing? Me personally, when I was starting out, even to this day, by far, one of the biggest mistakes that I have issues with is poor soil. As I start a new bed, as I revamp it a little bit, if I'm doing containers, sometimes the soil just isn't up to snuff. And oftentimes it takes years to develop a good soil profile. And so, by far, that is me personally. One of the biggest issues that I have with these five mistakes is just having good, strong soil. So, let me know in the comments below what is one of the biggest mistakes that you have to help you out to encourage it. So, as we look at those five major mistakes, I want to say thank you very much for joining me. And as we learn and grow together, and if you have any questions, let me know. I am so grateful that we can learn and grow together. And look on the lookout in the future. I'm hoping to be more of these live streams. And so, if it doesn't die right away, if there, hmm, do, 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 do. Overall, as we look at these different strawberries, keep in mind that strawberry plants are perfect for beginners. They're small, they're mobile, they have instant gratification. They only take a few months to grow. So if you are brand new to gardening or you're an expert and you're just trying to figure out what type of plant do I want to help to encourage me to grow, I encourage you, try strawberries. They're absolutely wonderful, and I love them as well. So I would encourage you to check out strawberries. They're one of my personal favorites, and I hope they're your personal favorites too. But if they're not, let me know in the comments below. Is there a different type of plant that you would prefer over strawberries to grow? Do you like lettuce? Do you like carrots? Do you like berries? What is it that you like growing? And for more information on strawberries, I've got a whole list of shorts, of videos that we have coming out on a regular basis of strawberry care. And hopefully, this is an all encompassed viewpoint to help you out. I know it ran a little bit long, but if you have questions, let us know. And we look forward for you to join us next time on our live stream. So, thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.